Bill T, take one.
I think I applied to your agency back, gosh,
As a writer.
as a writer.
I remember that.
Really?
Why didn't I hire you?
I probably wasn't very good back then. I really am.
Did you have like a portfolio or stuff? You brought it in and
I did.
I have no idea.
My high school career gave me a lot of experience with rejection, which carried over well into advertising. So, yeah.
Well, I have no idea why, but and I think in general one of the reasons might have been we didn't need copywriters. That wasn't our need, you know. Well, at one time I guess we did look for a copywriter, yeah, and that was probably the time you applied. And we hired Robin Chalkley. You know Robin?
Robin's as good as he is. Robin's great.
Yeah.
He's in Winston-Salem now.
Is
We're
he?
trying to get down to see him or get him up
Yeah,
there.
right.
His son still lives in the area. So.
Yeah, he was a pretty good copywriter. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we had Sharon, Mugler.
Yeah.
Sharon Scott Mugler, so forth and so on. Married 4 or 5 times, but
I'm trying to.
she was a good copywriter.
You know Leonard Carter? You ever work with him, Carter Media?
No.
He does some work with Don Wells, former Mary Ann of Gilligan's Island.
Uh-huh.
And so he's going to go out to L.A. and I'm trying to get him to see if he can work in.
Visit
talking to
Sharon.
And Bill Howe Jr. is in Palm Beach. So,
Palm Beach, huh?
So that's.
Is Sharon still married? Still, her husband's still alive?
She is married now.
Yeah, but I mean, her husband's still alive. He had some serious medical.
I suppose I did. I've only Facebook messaged her.
We're rolling, y'all. And,
I'm just gonna take like 2.
Yeah. Take as many as you like. There's no limit on your little digital thing there, is there? Who should I be looking at? You? Oh, really?
Okay.
You got to tell me this stuff. I need direction. Otherwise, I'm adrift.
What got you interested in? I know you've done a lot of things in your career, but what got you interested in advertising in the first place?
I had just quit my job to go into business for myself, and my partner backed out. And so I was suddenly adrift. And I had a friend here in Roanoke who was running an advertising agency. And he and I went to high school together, and he'd been bugging me for years to come down and work with him as a copywriter. And so, since I was adrift, I decided I'd go visit. And then when I did, I stayed at his house for 2 weeks, and I would go into the office with him every day. And to this ad agency he wanted me to work at. And after about 2 weeks, I decided, well, what the hell? I don't have a job. We'll give it a shot. That's how I got it.
Tell me about that agency. What was its name?
The agency was Creative Advertising, and the guy who ran it was John Hartman, who was, like I say, we went to school together, and so we worked together a total of about 18 months. But after about 9 months, there was some problems came up, and I realized that it wasn't going to work out between John and myself. So 4 of us gave John an ultimatum to straighten out the problems, or we were going to leave. So he didn't straighten them out, and we left. That's what started our agency.
And that was?
That was Image Advertising.
Yeah, and that was you, Fred, Randy, and...
Fred, it was me, Freddie Freelance, and a guy named Andy Klingenpeel, and Sharon. And we decided to call it Image because had we not, the name would have sounded like the Third Reich. It would have been Tanger, Mugler, Klingenpeel, and I guess Scott at that point, but it was way, way too big a mouthful.
You got, now did Tommy ever work with Tommy Holden?
Tommy was a partner also later on, yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
knew that he was.
Yeah, he was.
You guys had a hot shop
We
at
did.
the time, within the context of the times. it was a real different time. Tell me what the difference was in the business world and business climate, the client pool back then versus it is now, versus what it is now.
Well, TV was just really getting cranked up, especially as far as commercial. And when we were in Roanoke, when we started our agency, virtually no one really knew how to do TV commercials. It was a huge void, and we sort of jumped in the middle of that, and we had really great talent for voices like Freddie and music like Tommy, and good direction, if I might say so, and and so we really got into the TV end of it because there was a big need for it. And the TV stations appreciated that because they really didn't have any agencies who were doing good creative television. So that was one big difference. The other big difference, of course, was all print was in fact paper on the table and pencil on the paper, and there was nothing digital. So we had some really good, talented graphics people throughout the course of the agency's history.
Who were when you four broke off? Who were the clients that you got early on?
Yeah, we had a number of clients. Probably the most visible one was Berglund Automotive, and who they stuck with us for my gosh, they were a client for over 30 years. And in the end, when I retired after 30 years of running the agency, they had an in-house agency, and I went to work for them, managed that agency for another 7 years. So they were the longest-term client probably we had. But we also had a bunch of banks. Back in that time period, banks were not merging and melding every day or every week. And we had, at one point in the agency, we had 7 different banks. And that was perfectly legit back in the day. And so some of the banks came with us. They were all, none of them were really huge banks, but so we had financial, we had manufacturers. Another big client that went with us was Evans Paints, and they were over on Cleveland Avenue next to ROV. And of course, they're long gone. So we had a variety, huge variety. And we had a lot of political. We had political clients from day one. And we probably did the advertising and even ran the campaigns for a number of them. Probably we involved in at least 100 different candidates. So, and we had a very good track record.
When did Image become sort of the hot shop, the new kid on the block? And what was it like to be a part of I remember when I saw my agency start breathing on its own. And that was the exciting thing, that you're not just two guys slumming out hoping that you can make 24 grand a year, but something's happening here.
Yeah, well, that's right. And I think that it was recognized when we started winning, ad awards like you guys have done.
Can you put that in a full sentence so that I can use it without?
Yeah.
When Image started winning advertising awards, I felt like we could sort of.
Not sure exactly what you're looking for, but I think the shop became notorious when we started winning ad awards, and we not only won some of the local addies, but we went on to win a couple of national addies, and so we ended up going to Lincoln Center in New York and places like that, and then that reputation kind of came back to town, and I think everybody thought we had a pretty hot shop. And in addition to that, we had Freddie and Tommy, who were in the band, and that band was very well known in town, and the Vikings, and it later changed its name. But the point is, the partners were very visible out there in the public, and of course I got involved in a few things as well.
Is he scraping? Not scrape? Was that what that noise was?
Yeah, I'll walk outside.
All right.
No problem. So,
Yeah, I think what we got was
We
great.
got that, yeah. I just
But we don't want to hurt,
Sure.
Yeah. Dave, just a second here to get ready. He's adding a little dash of color. You gotta go?
Yes. Thank you
Thanks for everything.
Yes, absolutely. I'll see you tomorrow.
We're still rolling. Let her cross, and then
Oh, all right. Although she makes she makes a nice out of focus object.
Yeah.
Was it fun? I mean, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys were all young, good looking, kinda had a swagger. What was it like?
It was fun, but it also was constantly challenging, and it became on a sort of semi-regular basis. It became pretty divisive, and we got into some political things that were contentious. We got into battles over the art show, festival in the park, and things like that, and we got into some political things. So environmental issues. So it was fun, but it was challenging. It was demanding, and I don't think that I could have kept that pace up for 40 years. It really wore you out. So.
You've always been really involved in the community, even though I haven't talked to you in a long time. It's one of the things I've always admired about how you stayed engaged and how you seek to make an impact. Do you think that the advertising industry of the 60s, 70s, 80s made a difference in our community? What kind of positive impact can an advertising industry have?
I think the ad agency, any ad agency in any community makes a difference. The question is how much, and was it good or bad? The ad agency business in Roanoke, you know some of the names, and a lot of the ad agency people, such as Howard Packett or Cabell Brand, but these people got involved in the community in a big way. Cabell's still running a nonprofit, so am I. Howard was city council for Salem, and so I think that the people in the Roanoke ad community were shakers and movers to a larger degree than many industries, and they made a very positive difference, and still are making a difference.
Did you know John Will Creasy? I worked for John
Yeah.
Will for years. Amazing guy.
Yeah.
And just the things he was involved in.
Yep.
I want you to start out a sentence this way and finish it any way that you want to. The thing I remember about Fred Freelance was,
Oh, Lordy. Well, let me take 5 seconds
or the
here.
thing that was special about Fred Freelance was.
I guess I would say that the thing that was special about Freddie Freelance was his love of life. He had no cares in the world because he was going to inherit a lot of money, and he had tremendous native talents, but he appreciated life in a way that a lot of us can't. And he just was a very happy, positive force in the business and in the community.
What's the most interesting, funniest, weirdest thing that you experienced in your time in advertising that comes to mind?
In advertising.
Or anybody interesting you met?
That's a tough one. There's a lot of them. I guess the craziest. Let me start restart. I guess the strangest or maybe most memorable thing that I was involved in my advertising career was political. We were involved in a lot of races, a lot of political. Shoot, I blew that.
Okay.
Maybe start over. So the craziest part of the advertising, my advertising career was probably the political side, because we started out, we had Democrats and Republicans, and we even ran independent candidates. But after a while, one party didn't like the fact that we were working with the other party, so we had to settle on a party. So we ran Democrats. And in the time that we ran those Democrats, and that was people like Dickie Cranwell and Chip Woodrum, Vic Thomas, and John Edwards, and all these people who at that time really ran the state of Virginia. The Southwest Virginia contingent was so strong and so intelligent and wired and just effective at what they did, that there was in the House of Delegates and in the state Senate, people recognized that the Southwest Virginia group was the group that really drove the bus. So that was the craziest time when we could actually, if we wanted, and I did this, we wanted to get some bills passed, we could go to our clients who were also our legislators, and we could go to Richmond and get laws changed. So that's one of the things I got involved in, of course.
I have to know. Did you know Mamie Vest, and how did you guys get along?
I knew Mamie Vest, but I didn't know her that well. But we got along fine. We were competitive in a very friendly way.
Cool. Of all the advertising people you met and worked with during your career, who do you admire most and why?
Who do I admire most? Only advertising people. I guess in the Roanoke Valley is what you're talking about. I guess the guy I admire most would be, Cabell Brand, and because of all of the things that he did with his life and utilizing his agency for the good of the community and the good of posterity. And he's still doing them. Great guy.
What do you think is exciting and cool about advertising? What makes it a worthy thing for somebody to do with their life?
To me, the most important value in advertising is education and the truth. And the truth is really hard to come by in advertising. I got to tell you that there are constant ethical dilemmas about what your client would like you to say and what you feel is appropriate. So it's a constant struggle. That's also true with political advertising. And so it's one of the things that we really had a time dealing with over the years. And so, yeah, you can make a difference. You have to make choices all along the way, and if you're any good at it, you make the right choice for your client and for the public and the consumer.
That's great. There's a couple more though. What do you think the value? How do you think a community like Roanoke, which is a wonderful mid-sized community, how do we benefit as a community from having engaged creative people here and attracting a good talent base?
I'm not sure I understand that question totally.
Let me try it again. Let me try it again. I actually had another one I wanted to do, especially because you guys, like I said, you guys were winning national awards, but there weren't many agencies around here that were winning national awards.
Right.
How it had their heyday really in the
that's
50s.
Right.
And
That's right.
gone.
That's exactly right.
And there had been sort of a lull. But how do you feel like our talent, the talent that you have seen come through the market in your 30 plus years in advertising, how do you feel it stacks up to the bigger markets, to the different markets, and what's the difference? What are the unique challenges, budgets?
Well, the unique challenges in the Roanoke market is that there are not that many home-based companies. Most of the larger companies, Fortune 500, are somewhere else. So based on what we had to work with, though, which is medium-sized companies and smaller companies, I think that the advertising community, at least when I was involved in it, which was basically from 1970 through 2005, stacked up really well. The business has changed because of the digital world, and nowadays it's hard for me to tell who's doing what. But back in the day when we were running that agency, I think that we put out a lot of creative stuff and stacked up real well with the rest of the world. Well, I know that because of the awards that we were, picking up. As an aside, when you walked in our office, I don't know what year it was, but we started putting those Addy Awards on the wall, and then after a while they went all the way across the wall and up to the ceiling, down to the floor, and up the stairs, and we ran out of wall space. So, yeah, we had more than our share of awards. So, yeah, we stacked up well. I know our agency did, and I think the advertising community did.
Yeah, like I said, you guys just had an incredible shop going for a while. And when you were
Thank
with
you.
John Hartman, that was a creative advertising.
Was what?
Was it creative?
Creative advertising,
Yeah,
creative
they-
advertising.
they-
It was
they
a hot
were-
shop
they
too,
were
yeah.
well regarded.
Well, that's right, and that's, of course, everyone except John came over with us from that shop.
One last question. What is the most? Tell me about an ad, a local ad that you remember seeing and saying, "Wow, that's good. I wish I'd have done that."
Our ad or someone else's ad?
It can be either one. Just a local ad that made an impact on you and why.
Yeah, I think the ad that I'd like to remember most was one we did for the city of Roanoke. And basically, the ad just showed a nice sunset with some ducks flying through the air across a lake, and it just said, I believe it said something like, "Bring your." Let me start that over again. I'm trying to remember exactly what it said. Okay, so the ad I remember most is one we did for the city of Roanoke. And it had a nice photo at the top showing ducks flying through the sunset, over a lake. And basically the ad said, give your employees a $3,000 raise at no cost. And the essence of it was, it said, if you move to Roanoke, where the cost of living is $3,000 less a year, your employees get an automatic raise if you move your company here. And this ad ran in airports around the region, in Washington, D.C., for example, and they had tremendous success with it. And so that ad, to me, is probably the single most memorable thing that I've seen in the market. And yeah, it's of course one we did, but it worked really, really well, and they had good results from it.
Was that a print ad?
Yeah, it was a print ad. It was both a print ad and ran in a magazine, but it also was an airport poster ad. So it worked in several different media.
Oh, all right. I think you got all my questions. I have a couple other things I want to chat with you about. Did you guys do the Ford 150 truck, which I think was a Berglund thing? Ben Javadin sent me his reel.
Yeah.
And there's a Ford 150 truck that's I think it's at the Rockydale. And the truck drives around.
An explosion goes off. Yeah, we did that.
Tell me about that. You still rolling that?
Well,
Tell me about that.
well,
Because that was
yeah, and the world is a different place. I don't think we could do that today. But we knew the Rockydale people. They were a client. We did some work for them. And we wanted something dramatic. And so we got permission to go in there and have this truck drive along that thing. And really, we looked at the toughest place we could find for a Ford truck in the area, and that quarry is a tough place for a truck to work. So yeah, that was dramatic. That was fun. That was a blast, and we got a lot of comments about it, to be sure. Yep.
Did you guys do Lindy's?
Yes, we did, as long as they were in business.
Now, I don't know if you had anything to do with this, but I heard that Lindy's was, because Kentucky Fried Chicken in those days was a franchise.
Yeah.
I hear that Lindy's was the first people to have the big bucket outside. Is
That's right.
that true? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, Lindy's in this market was one of the leaders. Let me start that again. Lindy's was one of the innovators for Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I have a photo still of Freddie Freelance and Colonel Sanders sitting in a Lindy's booth, and so yeah, there were a number of things that we did 4 Lindy's that were adopted then later on by Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Tell me specifically about the bucket, because I mean, that went to.
I don't recall
I think
that
Bob-
much about
Bob
the
Kinsey
had
was talking about that.
Yeah,
I don't know if
and
it had just been a side
yeah.
guy thing.
Well, yeah, I don't know how much, how different that bucket was from something else they were using. I don't recall at that time. It was about when we first started out,
Yeah.
and so I don't recall all the details of that, but I just know that they.
That's
We
great.
did a
Those are
number
two
of
good
things.
Like I said,